ahead. We'll go ahead and get started.
Perfect.
Yay! We have achieved recording.
Good evening. This is the 5th regular business meeting of the Pasadena City College Board of Trustees. It's Wednesday, July 15th, a little bit after 6 p.m. And we're going to start off the meeting with a roll call. Or Armina, are you going to read the meeting notice first? You're on mute, Armina.
Should we do the script first and then roll call?
Are you going to ask everybody in the script?
I think we were going to do that with the open meeting, not with this part of the meeting going into closed session. So we will do that in the open meeting.
Eric, I think that's a great suggestion. So Armina, if you could just quickly do a roll call.
Should we do the script first?
Which part of the script, Armina?
Oh no, I was about to do roll call. Should we start?
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great. Yeah, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Student trustee David Ramirez.
I'm here.
Trustee Chen Lau.
Here.
Trustee Osterling.
Here.
Trustee Brown.
Here.
Trustee Silver.
Here.
Trustee Wah.
Here.
Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Fellow.
Here.
All here.
Okay, thank you. Asking our board clerk, Trustee Wah, do we have any public comment on closed session agenda items?
I believe that either Armina in Alex's stead, are you handling that?
There were no public comments for closed session items.
Okay. Hearing no public comments on the closed session items, we are then going to adjourn or recess, pardon me, to a closed session. And in that closed session, we will be discussing Government Code Section 54957, Employee Discipline, Dismissal, Release, 1 employee, and Government Code Section 54957, Evaluation of Employee, Superintendent, President. And with that, we will recess to closed session. Thank you. All right, we have all the trustees here, so if everyone's ready, I am going to get started. We are reconvening the regular meeting of the Pasadena City College Board. Today is Wednesday, July 15th, and this is our 5th regular business meeting. And first, I'm going to report out on action that was taken in the closed session that was just conducted. And in that session, the board approved by unanimous vote the recommendation for the suspension of 1 employee. No further action was taken by the board. No other action was taken by the board in the closed session. And next, we're going to go to the roll call, and I'll turn that over to Armina.
Thank you. Student trustee David Ramirez.
Here.
Trustee Chen Lau.
Here.
Trustee Osterling.
Here.
Trustee Brown.
Berlinda, you're on mute.
Here. Thank you. Trustee Silver.
Here.
Trustee Wah.
Here.
Trustee Martin.
Here.
And Trustee Fellow.
Here.
Oops.
I'm going to have to leave for a few minutes.
Oh, okay, Tony.
Jim, excuse me. I've got a worker here I've got to talk to.
Yeah. All right, Tony. We'll proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. let's see, I haven't given this any thought, and I'm trying to think of somebody we haven't had lead us yet, and I'm looking and I see Mackenzie down there. Mackenzie, would you be willing to lead us in the pledge to the flag tonight?
Sure, no problem.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right. 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 I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mackenzie. That's harder to do on Zoom than live. Thank you for leading us. Okay, next we're going to move on to agenda item C4. And this,
Okay, trustee Osterling, we do have to go back and read the script for the roll call.
pardon me, we missed the roll call script. My error, and for that we'll call on Ermina Galukian again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Prior to roll call, I would like to make clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that this Board of Trustees meeting is conducted pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953, as amended by Governor Gavin Newsom in Executive Order N2520, dated March 12, 2020. In that, all trustees are at their residences and all are participating by remote video or teleconference. I would now like to request that each trustee in turn respond to the following questions. I will start with Trustee Chen Lao. Trustee Chen Lao, can you hear me well?
yes,
Were you able to hear our proceedings up until now?
yes,
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
yes,
Thank you. Next, I would like to request that Trustee Osterling respond to the same questions. Trustee Osterling, can you hear me well?
Yes,
Were you able to hear our proceedings up until now?
yes,
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
yes,
Thank you. Next, I would like to request that Trustee Brown respond to the same questions. Trustee Brown, can you hear me well?
Yes,
Were you able to hear our proceedings up until now?
yes,
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
yes,
Thank you. Next, I would like to request that Trustee Silver respond to the same questions. Trustee Silver, can you hear me well?
yes,
Were you able to hear our proceedings up until now?
yes,
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
yes,
Thank you. Next, I would like to request that Trustee Wah respond to the same questions. Trustee Wah, can you hear me well?
Yes,
Were you able to hear our proceedings up until now?
yes,
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
yes,
Thank you. Next, I would like to request that Trustee Martin respond to the same questions. Trustee Martin, can you hear me well?
Yes,
Were you able to hear our proceedings up until now?
yes,
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
yes,
Thank you. Next, I would like to request that Trustee Fellow respond to the same questions. Trustee Fellow, can you hear me well? Has he returned?
I don't believe he has returned. So when it appears he is back, we'll come back and ask him these questions.
Would it be okay then I continue with the rest of the script?
Yes.
I'm here and yes.
Oh, you are here. Yay.
I'm sorry, I have so much going on today. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to request that Trustee Fellow respond to the same questions. Trustee Fellow, can you hear me well?
Yes,
Were you able to hear our proceedings up until now?
yes,
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
yes,
Thank you. I would now like to ask that any member of the Board of Trustees speak up at this time if they have not been able to clearly hear any trustee. Hearing no comment, the record should reflect that all trustees present have indicated that they were able to hear all other trustees clearly. I would next request that any trustee speak up at this time if such trustee has any reason to believe, based on voice recognition or otherwise, that any person representing themselves to be a certain trustee is not truly so. Hearing no comment, the record should reflect that no trustee has expressed doubt that any trustees are the parties participating by teleconference. I would now like to advise the trustees and the public that any votes taken during the remote conference portion of this meeting must be taken by roll call. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Armina, and thank you to Governor Newsom for that emergency edict that allows us to continue to meet despite the pandemic in this revised format. So now we are going to move on to agenda item C4, and that's the approval and reordering of agenda items. Dr. Androgenis.
Yes, I would like to pull board bylaw 2220 from consideration, and that is one of the bylaws that will be discussed, that would have been discussed during action item I2.
Thank you. And could you repeat that number one more time, please?
Board bylaw 2220.
2220. Okay. Very good. Any other requests to reorder the agenda?
Move to
Not-
approve the agenda as amended.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. And again, we'll conduct all of our votes by roll call vote. So Armina, you are up for the roll call vote.
Student trustee David Ramirez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen Lau.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Wall.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. The agenda has been approved as revised. And we're now going to move on to agenda item C5, introductions and recognitions. Dr. Androgenis, do you have any?
I do not. We will be hearing from Dr. Jared Ashcroft in a little while when you discuss action item I1, but I would like his introduction to be part of that discussion.
Okay, very good. Trustee Martin.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I sadly need to report the passing of former PCC trustee Warren Weaver.
Oh.
You know, many of us knew Warren. Warren was deeply involved in many organizations. He gave himself in many, many ways across our community, not only through Rotary and other not-for-profits. I know he was on a school board, on a local school board for Southwestern High School that's adjacent to his property. But one deep, deep passion of Warren Weaver was Pasadena City College. And Warren did a lot for Pasadena City College, not just as a trustee, but as a very close friend. He was very generous with his time and with his money. He's very generous with his skills, and former Superintendent Jack Scott will go on and on the stories of how Warren came over and fixed his furnace and did all kinds of different things when he moved into the area. He just had that kind of a big heart. But Pasadena City College was very, very important to Warren. I do wish there was some way we could do something on campus to recognize the life of Warren Weaver. He was particularly passionate about the work in technology fields and vocational fields. So maybe that would be something the college could consider, because he definitely did an awful lot for PCC, and he did a lot for me personally. He was a tremendous mentor my entire life. And I feel like it was my entire life because it was Warren who first introduced me to the open position for seat 6 back in 1979. So again, with sadness, and I'm just letting you all know that Warren has passed on.
Oh,
Trustee Martin, thank you for that wonderful recognition of former trustee Warren Weber, and we will be adjourning the meeting tonight in his memory.
Trustee Osling, could I say a few words also?
Yes, you may. Trustee Waugh, you are next.
Yeah, so I do know how close John and Trustee Martin and Warren were. Warren was a 28-year trustee for Area 5. And even after he was not on the board any longer, as John said, he still remained such a strong supporter of PCC. I remember, you know, he and I would often talk, and he would give me tips on what to do on the board and things to really be aware of. But he always attended the football games, and as John said, I mean, he just did so much. He was such a pillar in the San Marino community. So throughout our community, his loss is certainly going to be felt. And I agree with John. I think that Warren did so much for the college. So some of you may not know that Warren was actually responsible for the KPCC license agreement. He was the one who negotiated that from the Minnesota radio to bring it over to, and then to have a KPCC license here at the college. So we owe a lot of that to Warren and his kind of foresight. You know, huge supporter of our construction programs, and as John said, technology, as well as other programs in the college. So yeah, so I certainly hope that we can find a way to really honor and cherish his memory for some time at the college. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Trustee Waugh. Any further comments? Thank you. We'll move on at this point, and we're moving on to agenda item C6, which is public comment on non-agenda items. And Trustee Waugh, before we do this, do you want to read out the usual notice? And I'd be happy to if you don't.
Sure. Okay, so for anyone wanting to make public comment on non-agenda items, the Brown Act prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Members of the public may request the opportunity to address the board regarding any item on the agenda. To do so, please complete a request to address the Board of Trustees form, which I guess is now an email. Is that correct, Dr. Intrajonas? Send
yes.
an email?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And give it to the board secretary prior to the beginning of the meeting. No public comment cards will be accepted after the start of the meeting, and individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Total audience participation on any agenda item is limited to 15 minutes per board bylaw 2345. As part of the response to the ongoing coronavirus outbreak, the district has 2 options for providing members of the general public the opportunity to make comment on agenda items or items not on the agenda. Public comment will be accepted in person at the board meeting. Well, I guess we're not doing that. Oh, or can they actually go there? The board meet to the Creveling Lounge? Dr. Indrajanis?
No, they cannot.
Okay. So
No, they
that.
cannot.
Yeah. So we'll
Scratch
that one. Yeah.
Public comment can be submitted via email to, and I guess it wouldn't be to Alex since he's not here today. Did it go to him?
No, but it was corrected. Armina, if I believe it was corrected to Armina's
Okay, so
in the notification.
okay, it's via the email to Armina Galukian, and
Yeah.
Submissions will be read aloud in their entirety at the public meeting. So such submissions must be received prior to the start of the open session of the board meeting. The guidelines for the time and quantity of public comment remain in effect.
Thank you, Trustee Waugh. Ms. Galukian, do we have any public comments on non-agenda items tonight?
We received one public comment, and I can read it off now.
Okay, thank you. Please do.
Okay. I am Mark Whitworth, President of the Pasadena City College Faculty Association. I wish to address concerns regarding the 2021 budget. While recognizing that this is a difficult budget year for the state and community college system, in these lean years, the values of the institution are sharpened. Pasadena City College is one of the few local community colleges which fails to provide some health care for its part-time faculty, who teach approximately half our sections. Pasadena City College again fails part-time faculty by paying significantly lower hourly wages to our part-time faculty. In fact, the Board of Trustees commissioned a salary study several years ago showing Pasadena City College faculty compensation for all faculty compares poorly against other area community colleges. The Pasadena City College Faculty Association calls upon the Board of Trustees to demonstrate it values the professionalism, expertise, and dedication of the Pasadena City College faculty. Address these concerns by examining the comparative wages and benefits of local community college faculty, and further by creating line items in the upcoming budget for part-time health care. Make it clear that this institution values the work of our faculty. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Galukian. Moving on to item C7, this is to approve the minutes for our most recently held regular business meeting number 4, which was held June 17th, 2020. Do I hear a motion?
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And again, we will go to a roll call vote. Ms. Galukian.
Student trustee David Ramirez,
Aye.
trustee Chen Lau,
Aye.
trustee Osterling,
Aye.
trustee Brown,
Aye.
trustee Silver,
Aye.
trustee Wall,
Aye.
trustee Martin,
Aye.
and trustee Fellow.
Aye.
Okay, 7 ayes.
Okay, motion carries unanimously, minutes approved. Item C8 is board committees reporting out. Do we have any board committees to report out tonight?
Yes,
Okay, trustee Brown, you are up.
thank you. So the Policy Review Committee met on June 26th, all members present, including our student trustee. The committee reviewed and discussed 12 policies. 5 of them were up for annual review, and we had 5 new policies that addresses campus safety and policing, which is something very much needed during this time. So I thank staff for bringing that in such of a timely manner. We had two other policies we sent back for further discussion. So the committee is recommending approval of the 10 policies that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Brown. Any other board committees reporting out? Trustee Martin.
Yeah, the Budget and Audit Committee did meet, most of which we talked about was the tentative budget, which is on agenda, so I don't need to really elaborate on anything there. We did also review our PARS investments. So I wanted the other trustees to know that we are watching that as well.
Okay, thank you, trustee Martin. We're now going to move to the consent calendar items, and pursuant to the practice that we've set up, we will we'll take a motion to approve all of the consent calendar items for students, instruction, and business, which will include the student trustee vote, and then the personnel matters, which will exclude the trustee vote. So
Motion.
do I hear a motion for
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded for the consent calendar items. Before I call for a vote, is there any discussion or request to pull an item? Trustee Chen Lau.
For the consent calendar item under business approval, approve organization membership 20 to 21 fiscal year. I raised a question to the administration in reviewing the membership dues for all the membership organizations. And there was a comment that came back that perhaps certainly, the membership to the community college leagues, to the national community organization, those are a must. We must be
Let me,
part of.
pardon me for interrupting, Trustee Chen Lao. If you would like to request a specific item to pull for discussion, happy to entertain that motion. And then we can approve all the
Sure.
other consent calendar
Yes,
items, and then you
that's
can
fine.
lead discussion. What's the consent calendar item that you would like to pull for discussion?
It's under business
It's
G1.
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 G1. Okay, got it. All right. So do I hear a motion? Well, we'll call that the motion. Do I have a second to the motion to pull consent calendar item G1 for further discussion?
Trustee Austin, I believe you have a motion and a second to approve G1 except for G, for all the items under G except for G1. So we should probably just approve all the rest of them.
Right.
And then just pull G1 as a separate discussion.
Right. And I was taking a motion to pull G1. And
Well, you already have a motion on the floor, Trustee Osterling. So what I would recommend is that you ask for a friendly amendment. You could ask Trustee Fellow to approve all consent items with the exception of G1, and see if the person who seconded it would be willing to accept that amendment.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Also, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to I'm going to call for a vote to approve all of the consent items except G1. This will require a roll call vote. So Ms. Galukian, if you could conduct the roll call vote, please.
Student trustee David Ramirez,
Aye.
trustee Chen Lao,
Aye.
trustee Osterling,
Aye.
trustee Brown,
Aye.
trustee Silver,
Aye.
trustee Wall,
Aye.
trustee Martin,
Aye.
and trustee Fellow.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. And just to be clear for my fellow trustees, we call this item D the combined consent calendar, and we just approved E, F, and G except for G1. Are we all clear on that? Okay. And now item G1 was pulled, and Trustee Chen Lao, I will ask you for any comments that you have on item G1.
Sure. Thank you. One of the reasons that I pulled this is because we're looking at some difficult fiscal times in the next budget year. And from my understanding, the organizations for memberships were the same as last year, right? That rolled over to this year. And
Yes.
I'm asking the administration to review the memberships to see which ones are the must-haves in this, because we're looking at some pretty high ticket items for some of the memberships. For instance, $11,000 for BizFed. Certainly, I would defer to the administration's recommendation in terms of which ones the administration will see fit. But I would like some consideration given the fiscal situation that the college will be in next year.
Trustee Chen Lao, this item authorizes the college to renew these memberships when they come due. So
Okay.
obviously, we would consider whether or not renewing BizFed is advisable. But this
Sure.
is a standard agenda item every beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay.
And so as was explained to you, this is exactly this is what we do.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so do I hear a motion on, well, is there any further discussion on consent calendar item G1, although it's been pulled from the consent calendar? Hearing no further.
Trustee Osterling, I'd like to make a comment.
Trustee Waugh, you are up.
Yeah, so, I think that these issues are a concern across all of our system. We've talked about it at the league and our concern about whether or not sponsors are going to be pulling out. And I also think that it's important that we take a long-term vision on this. These are partners that we have throughout our organization who help us build the workforce, who help us build student programs. So I think the first discussion that we really need to have is about the budget and the various scenarios. And we know the deferrals are really just a sort of plugging the hole in the dam for right now, but we know that there's going to be cuts further down the line. So I do think that we need to have more serious discussions, but I think we need to look at this as a whole and not start cutting where there's going to be some strategic negative impact to us in our program. So we just need to look at this more holistically.
Okay. Any further discussion on consent calendar item G1? I'm going to call for.
I move to approve G1.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, and this will require a roll call vote again. Ms. Galukian.
Thank you. Student trustee David Ramirez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen Lau.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Waugh.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
And Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. And we are now on to the consent calendar item H for personnel. And for this one, the student trustee does not vote. Do I hear a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Dr. Fellow, I see your hand up, and please unmute yourself, sir.
I'm unmuted. Thank you. I just want to throw out a shout on behalf of the board to Anita Bobich, who's going to retire after 35 years as an instructor in health sciences. And I wish her, on behalf of the board, a happy retirement. Thank you.
Yeah. And Tony, thank you for always calling out our long-serving members. Thank you for that. Any further discussion?
Trustee Osterling, I also would like to give my congratulations to Dean Bobich. She was so instrumental in bringing all the trustees to the graduation for the health science students, especially the dental programs. We learned a lot about it through her. I also want to give a shout out to Dean Tongtaraj, who is being approved for her interim position.
Can I add to what Linda said?
Yes, absolutely. Tony, please, you're up.
I'm glad Linda brought out the dental stuff. I think I have been most impressed with the health sciences and especially the dental education. I can't imagine there's another school that does the restorative dentistry that PCC does. I'm very impressed. So thank you, Linda, for bringing it up. And they have good graduations and parties. Thank you.
Okay.
We want to miss that, would we?
Okay, I'm going to call for a vote at this point, hearing no further discussion. And again, this will be a roll call vote, and this is consent calendar item, agenda item H. Ms. Galukian.
Trustee Chen Lau.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Waugh.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
Thank you. 7 ayes.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And we are now going to move on to agenda item I, and these are action items recommended for approval to be voted on by the board. And we'll start with item I, pardon me, item number 1. This is to accept a grant award for Micro Nanotechnology Education Center. And uh, uh, Superintendent Androgenis, any background on this?
Actually, I'm going to turn this item over to Dr. Jared Ashcroft, and he is going to tell you a little bit about this. This is very exciting for the college.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Ashcroft, take it away, sir.
I first want to thank Pasadena City College and Dr. Androgenis for supporting this grant. She actually came to our NSF site visit in early May. I also want to, I can't thank everybody who's been helping, but it's been really an awesome experience seeing so many entities at PCC come together to make this happen. I would really like to mention one name, and that's Nancy Roberts, who's really kind of a gem at PCC and really has been supportive on getting this grant. So really quick about our center. It's Micro Nanotechnology Education Center. You can kind of see there an SEM image that's of blue morpho butterfly wings. Those little nanostructures actually is what makes the really, really blue translucent color of those wings. Next slide. So this is just anywhere in the United States or anywhere in the world. And if we go to the next slide, you can see all of the different all the different nano industry materials that are present in just our everyday lives, from microsensors, nanosensors, titanium dioxide in sunscreen, UV materials, nanophotonic materials. Next slide. So here's all the different applications: instruments, food, water, material science, information technology, medicine, and health. Next slide. So really what the goal of this center is bringing industry in and having them participate in what do you need for your industry over the next 5-10 years. And that way we can develop programs in micro nanotechnology at community colleges to train the next professional workforce. And again, this is going to be more for certificates, associate's degrees, and trying to find a different pathway other than transfer, and have industry lead us and tell us, what do we need to do and what do we need to provide the students so they can get jobs at your industries? Next slide. Now, these are just some of our industry partners. We have about 20 so far. We have all 5 national labs in California are on it: the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Boeing, Intel, Tower Jazz, which is kind of a smaller company that does semiconductors. SEMI is actually an organization that's a conglomerate of 3,500 semiconductor companies, and MANSEF is another conglomerate that has micro nanotechnology companies in it. And all of these partner with us, and we meet on a weekly basis, forming a business industry leadership team. And they're going to drive this grant forward and really, really engage with us and tell us, what do you need us to teach so that these students can get jobs? Next slide. And just economic impact. Nanotechnology, there's trillions of devices out there. It's really a $1 trillion industry. Probably right now there's about 1 million jobs out there. And one of the issues is we are having a lot of retirements come up. So we need students in the pipeline that are going to be taking over these jobs in the future. And really it's looking at the emerging technologies, what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years. So we're training the students today for all the work that they need to do tomorrow. Next slide. These are all of our partners. It is a pretty complex grant. We have 4-year universities like Penn State, University of Minnesota, Princeton University, Purdue, SUNY Polytechnic. All of the leadership team, though, is a community college. So we're working with Portland Community College, Northwest Vista College in San Antonio, Normandale Community College, Edmonds College in Portland. We got community colleges all over the country that are going to be working with us. And then Oak Crest Institute of Science, which has been working with PCC for the last 20 years, is also a partner on the grant. Next slide. This is a picture of all of our team members. It's a pretty large team from all over the country. And we're going to be looking forward to be kind of working and figuring out how do we prepare our students for getting micro nanotech jobs. I think one more slide. And I love this slide at last, because I think at the end of the day in education, we have to remember we are doing this for students, and it's really about how can we develop programs at Pasadena City College and support a national effort to provide micro nanotechnology education opportunities for students and give them a pathway so that they can seek employment, maybe even retraining people who are in the workforce now. It's going to be much needed over the next 5 or 10 years. And one of the exciting things is the ATE program. This is a National Science Foundation Advanced Technological Education. The proposed budget is supposed to double this year from 70 million to 150 million. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the future to leverage this grant and actually do more things and grow it even bigger. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashcroft. Questions? I see Dr. Fellow, you're up first, sir.
I just wanted to mention, this is a big thing, and I am so impressed with the faculty that are involved, and I just wanted to congratulate them and salute them. Most people don't get this type of NSF grants, faculty members. So I'd like to make a motion to accept this on behalf of the faculty for PCC. Thank you very much.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
So I would like to also congratulate Professor Ashcroft and his team. I had the chance to attend his team launch and hear some of his team members speak about how excited they are to be part of this, and really thanking Jared for the work that he put in to bring this all together. I agree totally with Dr. Fellow's comments, and as Dr. Ashcroft said, this is something that's going to really resonate for our students throughout their life, and really move us forward, move the college forward, move our students forward. So thank you for all you've done, Professor Ashcroft.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Trustee Watt. Any other questions or comments by trustees? Trustee Silver, you're up.
I believe we're sending 4 PCC students to participate now. And do you know, in a couple of years, how many, how big can it get for our students?
So yes, we're going to have a lot of workshops coming over the next summer. So over this summer, because we can't do our hands-on workshops, we are a little bit hamstrung with what we can do. But next summer, we are going to be looking at opening up everything. And we have about 10 workshops, and there'll be probably on average 10 to 20 faculty and students. So it's supposed to be faculty that come to the workshop and bring their students to work with them in clean rooms and other things. Last summer, we did take 10 students to University of New Mexico, and we did a micro sensor pressure workshop. So that's I'm hoping by the end of this, it turns into, we're taking hundreds of students across the country to our different workshops.
Trustee Brown, did you have any comments?
No, I'm just excited. I'm hoping to see this take some traction.
Yeah, I was just to add, congratulations on achieving this tremendous award, and thank you to you and everybody else for all the hard work to make this happen. And nanotechnology is part of the future, so it's very exciting generally, but it's really exciting that we can bring this down to the community college level, and specifically here at PCC. So again, thank you and congratulations. And at this time, with no further comments, I'm going to go to a roll call vote for item I1. Ms. Galukian, take it away, please.
Thank you. Student trustee David Ramirez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen Lao.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Wall.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. And again, thank you, Dr. Ashcroft, and all others involved in making this exciting thing happen. Greatly appreciated. We are going to move on to action item number I2, and this is to approve board bylaws and board policies. And I'm going to ask Trustee Brown if you have any comments that you'd like to make before I take a motion.
Actually, I think I made them earlier. We have 5 new policies which are very important to our campus. In lieu with all that's going on, I thought this was very timely to bring these policies about police, campus safety and policing. I thought that was very timely and I appreciate that. And the other policies are just review policies. We did have a long discussion about 2 of the new policies that will not be brought to us today. It's not on the agenda, that we had a thorough discussion on, and we'll come back at another time. But our recommendation is that unless you have questions or discussions, that these policies be approved.
Okay, and Trustee Martin.
I'd like to make a motion to approve all the policies except BB 2220, as mentioned earlier, was pulled. And I'd like to have a separate vote and discussion on 3560 alcoholic beverages, but would move approval of all the rest.
Second.
Okay, let me thank you, Trustee Martin. Let me handle that in 2 parts. Can we have a vote to pull policy 3560 for a separate vote? Is that okay?
Well, my motion included
Okay.
all of them but that one and the one we already pulled.
Right.
So in essence,
yeah, you know what,
way.
John, let's do it your way because of all these roll call votes we have to do. I think
I think that would be easier. So I think that's the best motion, is the one Trustee Martin made.
Yeah, agreed. So we'll go that route. So that's been moved and seconded, and we're now going to call for a roll call vote. And just for the sake of clarity, we're voting on all of the items on the agenda except Board Bylaw 2220, which was previously pulled, and Board Policy 3560, which was just now pulled for further discussion. Roll call vote, please. Ms. Galukian.
Student Trustee Ramirez,
Aye.
Trustee Chenla,
Aye.
Trustee Osterling,
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Aye.
Trustee Silver,
Aye.
Trustee Wall,
Aye.
Trustee Martin,
Aye.
and Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously, and that leaves Board Policy 3560, alcoholic beverages, for separate discussion. And Trustee Martin, I'll have you lead that off, please.
I have some reservations about 3560. I believe up until now, for many, many years, probably since we've been in existence, we've been an alcohol-free campus. Obviously, the intent here has nothing to do with alcohol for students.
Right.
It's more centered on fundraising. It's really clear. I understand that. But I still have reservations about it. We obviously know that alcohol on some campuses, and binge drinking in particular, is a very, very serious problem. We also know the demographics of PCC. I can't tell you exactly, but I would estimate a very large percentage, maybe as much as half, maybe more than half, would be under the drinking age. And though, again, we're not particularly allowing alcohol for students, and I understand that, I think that we've been well served in an alcohol-free campus. I realize it does mean some of our fundraising activities move to the Athenaeum or other associated places. There is a slight inconvenience to that, but I think for the concerns raised with alcohol, in particular young people, and the message it's sending, I just believe that we're better served retaining a totally alcohol-free campus.
If I can comment.
Yeah, Superintendent Androgenis, please comment.
The point that I feel like I need to make it at this point is that we are in the process of building out our culinary program. And so this policy pertains to our ability to serve alcohol at fundraising events. But once our culinary program is up and going, part of a culinary program includes serving and wine tasting. And we've also looked at the possibility of having a brewing program. So I just want to throw that out there, that part of our goal of having a culinary program is to have it be complete for our students. And when we get to that point, we will also need to come and have a policy, because there is a stipulation within the ed code for students having serving alcohol, learning about alcohol in an educational venue. So it's very, it's very limited. I had this at Santa Barbara City College. There's only a certain amount that can be poured. There's only, it's very rigid curriculum. But I just wanted to insert that because this is step one of a two-step process.
I hope that we'll have a sommelier program with a culinary school too. That would be expand the program. So
that and a beer version of that as well, which I can't think of what it's called off the top of my head.
Can I comment?
Dr. Juni, please comment.
For beer, it's a Cicerone.
Okay. Any other questions or comments by trustees? Trustee Silver.
I think that attending a fundraiser or a benefit at PCC with a glass of wine responsibly, drunk, makes a lovely event. And if we are going to the Athenaeum, that's an expensive venue. And having events right on our own lovely campus, welcoming people with a lovely party, I think would increase giving, and I think, net us more money. And I think responsible drinking is the key, and, that could be policed. But I don't think that this would cause students to drink more if they see this kind of an event.
Any other questions or comments? I see a hand up, Trustee Brown, please.
Yeah, Trustee Brown is definitely in agreement with us adopting this policy. I do understand what John is saying, but I'm not sure that that was really the purpose of this policy. I know we have several, we try to have several fundraisers, and like what Tammy made reference to, a good fundraiser with wine does not say that someone is going to be an alcoholic on campus. Our young kids will do what young kids are going to do. And having our foundation and going to other venues, I remember the first fundraiser we had years ago, that was one of the issues, that we had to leave campus in order to, or minimize the amount of people that would come, because people are just used to having a glass of wine. And I'm in favor of the policy personally.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve 3560.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Before I call for a vote, any further comments? I was going to chime in with my own thoughts on this, and I see the merits of both sides of this. I do have concerns about hosting events, well-intentioned fundraising events on campus where alcoholic beverages are served. If we take these events off campus, it can be more costly, and it can be maybe a little bit more difficult to get participation by students or faculty or staff, possibly, maybe not. I think that the upcoming culinary program and craft beer program, etc., rather than having a blanket of this nature to cover those activities, I would much rather see something at the time we get to that point in the curriculum development where we do have rules of the road for those curriculum.
There will be.
Yeah, and that those would be guided by that. And I'd like to think that we could find ways to hold events on campus in a more narrow way to reduce and not just have it as broad as this. I guess what I'm asking for is if we could try to narrow this a bit, and as opposed to having it be completely wide open or completely shut, if it could be in some kind of a controlled fashion versus a general fashion. And that would take some more thought and writing, and I apologize for bringing this up now as opposed to having mentioned it earlier.
Well, I guess my question to you is, I mean, I'm not suggesting that we're going to have a beer Lollapalooza here. So
yeah, no, that's understood.
This is like, instead of renting out the Athenaeum or, you know, a country club for the foundation holiday Christmas party or holiday party, that it could be held in Creveling. And that would significantly reduce the overhead of that event. And it would, you know, it would just make it a more economical event. And more importantly, we want the people who donate to our college to actually see it. You know, if they primarily see the donation, see the foundation events from the viewpoint of, you know, being at the Annandale Country Club, that's not PCC. PCC is our campus. And this is really just an opportunity to just, you know, add another layer, something else for the foundation, a way for the foundation to showcase the college. And so, you know, I hear what you're saying, and I believe that if approved, that I would use this judiciously and in an appropriate manner and not open the college up to any sort of legal trouble.
Trustee Osterling.
Trustee Martin, I saw your hand up, and then Trustee Waugh, you're next.
Okay, so obviously I'm not going to vote for this no matter what, and I can, you know, I know how to count to 4. But to expand upon your point that you made, Jim, if we look at the policy itself, and we look in the second line and we go right to the middle word, it says regarding serving, it gives the superintendent, you know, kind of blanket authority regarding serving alcoholic beverages on campus, serving beverages on campus or at fundraising events. So to your point, obviously we have a sensational superintendent that we all trust and admire, but this is a policy that will hopefully, well, maybe hopefully not in my case, but in your case, transcend many superintendents for a long period of time. When we look at the word or, it basically gives the superintendent total discretion, or even without superintendent discretion at a nonprofit event, because that's what the word or means, one or the other. So a simple change that you could make that would probably accomplish your same goal would be changing the or to and, so that it is both the superintendent and a nonprofit event. which accomplishes all the things that you're trying to say and saving money and all that. And I'll be the first to admit that you raise more money after people have had a few drinks than before. I get it. But I think if my recommendation would be, if you're trying to accomplish what you're saying, Jim, just change the or to and.
Or is it actually better to delete the word or? So
Well,
that it,
Trustee Osterling, I would not agree to that. I think that, to Dr. Indrajana's point, one of the things that we're trying to do is build a hotel and a culinary program. You know, I've been to several events at other colleges, and they do serve wine, and students are there. And it teaches them both, you know, to be in the service industry, to the comments that were made by the trustees, a cicerone or a sommelier program, you know, for our students, I think would be great as part of their culinary training and experience. So I think that, you know, this is not just fundraising. It is about the programs that we're trying to build in this industry.
Well, can I?
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
we've
Sorry.
got multiple speakers here. I'm going to go to Trustee Chen Lao, and then we'll go to Superintendent Androgenis.
Okay, so how I'm reading this is that, you know, certainly we want to support the foundation in bringing, you know, fundraisers to the campus. It says right here, but it says how to benefit nonprofit corporations. So does that mean, for instance, the Foothill families can have a fundraiser on PCC campus and have be alcohol served to benefit Foothill campuses? Do we want to be more specific and to say to benefit, you know, PCC College or to benefit the foundation? Because when you say to benefit nonprofit corporations, I read that as other nonprofits can also use this policy and have their events on campus.
So let me address both of those points. The
Okay.
first point is, this is a BP, this is not an AP. And so the administrative procedure that we will put together will outline and address the issues that you're talking about.
Okay.
The second thing, and also to your point, Trustee Chen Lao, is that if you limit it to just saying for the PCC Foundation, what that has the potential to do is there might come a time, don't know, have nothing in mind, but there might come a time when the Pasadena City College Foundation and the Pasadena Community Foundation have some sort of reason to have a joint event.
Oh, I see.
You take out the nonprofit corporations here, it means that I would have to say no, because the policy was restricted only to the PCC Foundation. And I think you know, I understand what the intent of this policy is. The intent of the policy is to benefit the PCC Foundation, and not to set up a brew pub for just anybody to walk in off the street at Pasadena. So I understand your concern, but my concern is that if there was some really great opportunity, we wouldn't be able to take advantage of it if this was more limited than it is.
Okay, any further questions or comments by trustees before we call for the vote?
May I comment?
Trustee Ramirez, absolutely. You're up, sir.
All right, so I don't feel like having exceptions to having alcohol on campus and serving students to the greatest extent we can are necessarily mutually exclusive. I think everyone, regardless of this policy, everyone knows that you shouldn't be walking down one of C building halls with a beer in hand. That'll never be appropriate. But I think this presents a great opportunity to raise more money for students, and that means great opportunities for our students.
Thank you, Trustee Ramirez. Okay, I think we fully hashed this out, and this has already been moved and seconded. Am I correct?
Yes, just one last, you know, to
Trustee Chen Lao, please.
clarification. You know, for I understand that it says, you know, certainly to benefit, you know, nonprofit organizations. And I hear President Androgenis's point of, not limiting that to just the PCC Foundation. Can it say, and fundraising events to benefit Pasadena City College, so that we know that all the events that are going to be held, that are going to be, where alcohol is going to be served, is going to specifically benefit PCC College. So whether it's a Pasadena Community Foundation coming here, or whether it's, somewhere else, we know that the beneficiary would be PCC.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. So
Okay.
I think that the policy is the policy of Pasadena City College.
Okay.
So the goal would be to benefit Pasadena City College. So to me, it's implied.
Okay.
That's how I read it.
Okay.
Trustee Silver.
These policies are changeable. So if we try with this language and we're unhappy with it, we can revisit this policy and change it.
Yes.
Okay. I think we've had a full round of discussion on this. Thank you to all the trustees for your input. And I'm going to call for a vote now, hearing no further discussion. And Ms. Galukian.
Thank you. Student trustee Ramirez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen-Lao.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
No.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Wah.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
No.
Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
6 ayes, 2 nays.
Okay, motion carries 6 ayes, 2 noes. Thank you, Ms. Galukian. And the motion passes. And even though I personally voted no, I will support the will of the board on this. Thank you. And now we are going to move on to item number 3, which is to approve modifications, additions, and deletions to the credit and non-credit curriculum.
Motion to approve.
Turn that over to Dr. Terry Juni.
Okay, we have a motion and a second,
Oh,
and we now have a presentation. Thank you, Dr.
Well,
Juni.
yes.
So no, I don't have a presentation. I
Oh, okay.
will happily answer any
No.
questions. The only thing that I would do is call your attention to the number of emergency Form Ds that were approved. You should know that the Curriculum and Instruction Committee have been working very hard over the last 2 months, because the last board meeting, there also was a large number. We are required by the state to do emergency Form Ds on every course that is being taught during the summer and or the fall by the end of December of 2020. Our C&I committee will have that done before the beginning of fall.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Juni. Any questions for Dr. Juni or Superintendent Androgenis?
No, just a big thank you to all the faculty for their hard work. This is just a monumental task, and it's a lot of work for the faculty and everybody in Terry's area who worked so hard on all this. That's all I could say. It's a lot.
And if I could just add one other thing to follow what Dr. Androgenis just said, the C&I committee is actually continuing to meet over the summer. Because of the need to approve all of these Form Ds, they weren't able to do their regular business. So they've been meeting over the summer to make sure they stay on track with other curriculum issues that needed to be looked at.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Juni. We had a motion and a second. Is there any other questions or comments on the curriculum? All right, call for a vote. And again, we'll go to the roll call in Ms. Galukian.
Student trustee Ramirez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen-Lao.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling,
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Aye.
Trustee Silver,
Aye.
Trustee Waugh,
Aye.
Trustee Martin,
Aye.
and Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you again, Dr. Juni. We're going to move on to agenda item 4 now, and this is a public hearing and adoption of the fiscal year 20 and to 21 tentative budget. And before I call for a motion here, I believe we have a presentation.
You do, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mike Bush for that.
Thank you. And may I share my screen now?
Yes, I took mine off.
Okay. Thank you. It says it's still disabled by host. You don't like me. Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you, members of the board. Tonight, I'm presenting the tentative budget for the college. As the board recalls, this is a very unique budget year with the delay of the income taxes. So our tentative budget was also delayed and our adopted budget will be delayed. The last time we spoke, we shared about the legislature had a completely different budget from the governor's May revise, and that normally the Assembly, the Senate, and the governor would be 3 different budgets, and they would have a conference committee. What was very unique in this case, both the Senate and the Assembly passed the same budget. So there was really no conference committee, but they did get together with the governor to discuss a compromise to see if they could come to terms. So the governor had a May revise, the legislature passed a budget that was radically different. And then they met to discuss it. And then they put through a budget amendment, which was all signed on time. And we have a very unique budget. The 2 sticking points was, how does the state plan for federal relief? Do we assume the federal government will pass relief, or will we be looking to take action assuming there is no federal relief? And then the other thing was about preserving education. Do we take cuts to education, or do we preserve the full funding? They were able to come to terms. The governor won on the first one, that we plan as if there is no federal relief, and then if there is, back off on some of the deferrals. And the legislature won on protecting education and health service funding. So it prevents immediate cuts to community college, but it defers $1.5 billion to the next fiscal year in order to balance Prop 98. In the event that there is federal relief, $791 million will be rescinded. So the deferral would be a lot less. It does provide a little additional funding in that there'd be $120 million worth of a block grant to address the impacts of the pandemic. The governor also won on there is no COLA nor growth funding. It extends the student-centered funding formula hold harmless through 23-24. Both of them had that was in both budgets. The temporary reduction of pension costs was in both budgets. The rates are reduced by 2 percentage points each for the 2021 and the 21-22 budget. So in 22-23, they would go back up. Recall that Governor Newsom was buying down the liability, and he elected instead in his May revise to use those funds to subsidize school districts and municipalities' pension costs. It expresses the legislature's intent that districts maintain all classified employees. However, it specifically prohibits districts from laying off for either lack of funds or lack of work, custodial, transportation, or child nutrition workers. It provides $15 million for Dreamers Incentive Grant. It fully funds Calbright, and then Cal Grants, but then Calbright College was a big sticking point. The legislature wanted to eliminate it, and they came back with a 25% reduction in ongoing costs, plus a $40 million in one-time monies that they hadn't spent our past budget year. And very importantly, funds for the Serafian building have been reallocated, and it is once again in the budget. The deferrals are on a very unique schedule that I want to make sure the board's aware of. It enables full program funding despite a 9% reduction in community college funding for the 2021 year. It's a one-time budget savings for the state. So they're putting a lot into this one-time move. Can cause cash flow issues for districts. It will cause a cash flow issue for our district. If the entire deferral does go through, it's a $30 million deferral for the district. It puts stress on ending fund balances. It requires districts to use tax revenue anticipation notes, which is a form of borrowing. The deferrals will roll forward until they're paid off. So until the state has extra revenue to pay off or make a double payment in a year, this deferral will continue, and the cash flow will continue year after year. Deferrals make future program reductions more likely and more profound. The deferral calendar is very strange. For revenue that's earned in February of 2021, we will be paid in November. It's a 9-month deferral of $253 million. For March of 2021, it's paid in October. April is paid in September, May in August, and June in July. This caught us a little off guard, but what was shared with us, part of the reasoning is if there is federal relief, they will be eliminating the May, March, and part of the April deferral. So in some respects, they're still counting on having some federal relief. However, if we do issue a tax revenue anticipation note, we're going to have to look at cash flows. Normally, those notes are issued between 4 and 6 months, but it's appearing we'd have to issue a longer note. The good news is we're not in this alone, and we are currently watching 2 pools. The league is forming a pool, and I'm on a conference call next week about the league's trans and other just general information about the trans. Also, LACO has a trans pool that we can watch. And currently, interest rates on trans are around 0.5%. So it's not a lot of interest, but it still is interest. Okay. The general fund tentative budget. Here are the revenues totaling 168 million, and the expenses, which are slightly above the revenue for $425,000 deficit spending. It still maintains the board's 18% reserve. Here's a chart of fund balances that we provide every year. And you can see where the beginning fund balances and the anticipated ending fund balances are. Okay. This is something I added and I sent out earlier today because I know it's difficult to see on the computer screens. One of the board's questions came up about our actuals and how we report it. The first thing is I'd like to remind the board that we are in a modified accrual accounting. Unlike private enterprise that does accruals throughout the year, we only do it at year end. And so it means that when we're reporting actuals to date or the current district board approved budget, the ending balance, we usually do not report that because it fluctuates because we're not booking receivables for apportionment or we're not booking liabilities as they're coming up. We wait to the end of the year to true up. So there was a question regarding where we anticipate 1920 to come in at. This is where we have it right now, but our books are not closed and we're still going through some of the accruals and they're not audited yet. The timeline will be when we bring the adopted budget, we'll have the unaudited actuals as part of that. And we give a lot more detailed reporting on the prior fiscal year. And then we will, once the auditors come in and audit, it used to be in late November, early December, we take the audited actuals to the board and the board would accept them. But this year is going to be in January or February that the auditor will come and present the audited actuals. I also wanted to make sure the board was aware of a P2 anomaly that the system's working through. P2, when we received it on the 27th of June, had a surprise 8.16% deficit to account for the Educational Protection Act. That's the Prop 30 that was, and then followed up by the Prop 55 that was reported, that was passed during the last recession. It is based off of income tax, which the state's not sure of what that income tax is. It's a $12 million surprise deficit. Needless to say, there was a flurry of activity between, when that report came out, and the Department of Finance, Chris Ferguson, specifically the Department of Finance, feels the deficit is a mistake, that he does not see a deficit. I have colleagues that were former vice chancellors who feel the deficit's about a 0.5 percentage point. And that seems to be the consensus of 0.5 to 1% is where the various districts are forecasting for the 1920 year, which is in line with the puts and takes of the taxes. The chancellor, after a lot of discussion, chancellor's office is going to reissue the P2 in July or August. Currently, I'm viewing this as an audit issue more than a reporting of revenue. It's not a fiscal one. By law, the Educational Protection Act must be backfilled. So if the income taxes do come in short, the state general fund must backfill it. So right now we have an audit issue in how are we going to document what we accrue as our apportionment for the state. The state's trying to give us some guidance. We have spoken with our auditors on and what their filling is, and they concur that the Educational Protection Act will be backfilled. And we are trying to come to terms with the documentation necessary from the state in order to close the books. But we still have some time to do that. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board.
Okay, hands up. Any questions from the board? Trustee Silver, you're first.
Hi, Dr. Bush, thank you. On the budget, you have adopted budget. So in the General Fund 1,
Mm-hmm.
you have the 2018-2019 adopted budget, and then you jump to the 2019-2020 adopted budget.
Correct.
And not to have work, for retroactive things, but I would love to in the future see actuals, so we could see past year's adopted budget, past year's actuals, and then this year's adopted budget, and then like you have numbers as of whatever date. In this case, it was June 9th.
Correct.
I like that a lot. So I'm wondering if that could be a future addition to budgets the board receives.
Certainly could. I just want to check understanding. This is a document that historically has been shared with the board. And so I'm hearing, rather than having the prior years adopted, put the prior years actuals, or to put both.
So we could see, where things differed from our anticipated revenues or costs.
Certainly could do that. I was just checking understanding. And
it would be an additional, so not taking anything away, but adding a column.
Okay, we could certainly do that, and we could have that change done by adopted.
Okay.
We present the adopted budget.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. And then I have a second question, and it's going to funds, back to funds 3 through 74.
Correct.
And thank you for providing these actuals. And I understand they're unaudited, the additional information you gave us. But on the ending balances, you have them through, on the additional item that we received in the email, the PDF, that's through 6/30/20.
Yeah.
But from what I just heard you say, so in a business, you would anticipate receivables and expenditures, but you're saying in accounting for the college, you don't. So that's why there's that mismatch.
Yes, we follow GASB accounting standards instead of FASB, so there's some different rules on how, not only do we have our accruals for payables, receivables, we also have to handle our revenue we're receiving. If it's a grant, we have to do what's called deferred revenue, because we only earn the money once we spend the funds. So it'll look like we have more money in the budget, then because we haven't expended the grant, we'll defer that revenue when we close the books into the following year. And that's why in the following year, there's a jump in revenue often, and you'll see how that moves. When we do, it's the 3/11 when we close the books, and it's a very detailed report where you can see all the deferrals. So depending on the type of revenue we're getting will depend on how we have to close the books.
So how do you determine your beginning balance? Just because you have another, I hate to say set of books, but another spreadsheet somewhere that is anticipating all of this? And
right now we have estimates. We put the footnote on that chart that the books are not closed, so those numbers will continue to move. And we do it, we do it in the system, so it's not another set of books, but as we come to a grant, we have all the expenditures and all the payables lined up for that grant, we know how much money's left over, then we'd have to set up a deferral. So it's a slow process. It takes us a few weeks to work through all our account numbers, but we have to get the final payrolls posted. We have to get all our anticipated payables, our encumbrances cleared, things like that. And then we're able to do the final accruals, which will be done very shortly. It's just, it usually takes a good 4 to 6 weeks from our last business day. So tentative budget does have a lot of estimating in it. Our adopted budget will be tied down.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So-
Trustee Chen Lao, you're up next, and then Trustee Wah after you.
So when we talk about the $120 million in block grants, when do you think college will receive that?
Well, let me answer receiving in 2 different ways. We get notification of our apportionment, and then we get a payable schedule. And what I just outlined, some of that won't occur until November next year, because it's going to be part of the deferral. So we'll get our apportionment and we'll know how much we can spend. The other tricky part of this block grant is half of it's coming from federal funds that flow through the state and the other half aren't. So the state wants us to spend the federal part by December. So if we don't find out how much money we're getting pretty soon, it will be difficult to spend by December in a very strategic manner. So we're hoping that within the next 4 weeks, we'll get our apportionment.
But yet we don't know whether we can get the federal money, right? The federal funds are up.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. There's various pots of federal money.
Okay.
And the best way to think about it is the CARES Act versus the HEROES Act. Although I don't think it'll have the HEROES name on it when it's finally done. But we had our first stimulus package, and then there's the second stimulus package. So in the first stimulus package, there was 3 CARE grants that the college received directly from the federal government. The state also received a grant, and the state is using part of that grant to support community colleges. So once that money, the state's already received. And that's why
we haven't received it. The state's received it, but we haven't received it.
We have not received it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And then Trustee Wah, you're next.
Yeah, so a couple of questions. So Dr. Bush, it's my understanding that, so this is probably not final, so as a May revise. So there might be some further iterations. I heard that, since this is just sort of what came out, but there may still be changes coming up. Is that true, or do we expect, and if that is true, what do we expect to maybe change?
I don't know if I can answer if it's true. It's what we're anticipating, what we were led to believe by the legislature. They are looking to see how the income receipts come in. So if the income tax receipts come in on target, they won't meet again. People are betting the income tax receipts might come in light, and then they'll need to meet again.
Okay.
Other issue which falls more into your area expertise is this budget act had no policy with it. And usually the legislatures pass a lot of policy statements as part of the budget act. So there's some in the Assembly and Senate that are looking to an August meeting to do all the policies that they wanted to accomplish. And I'm not an expert in that area, but they're looking to meet to do that. And then it's it's also colored in that 3, I believe it's 2 in the Assembly, 1 in the Senate have been diagnosed with COVID. And so they've closed down. And one of the houses has the ability to meet electronically, and the other doesn't. And I don't know which one that is, but they're trying to work out all those details right now. And it's out of my area expertise. I'm just looking at the finances for the state. We'll know in 2 weeks if the receipts came in on target. But if they don't, the other interesting thing is this is a big election year. They're going to have 100 seats turn over, possibly. And they may need to do something in November, put that in place before the new Assembly and Senate are seated. So there could be something done in August, there could be something done in November. So.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was hearing. And just one other question on the Serafian building. So we were already moving forward. So now this will the money just trickle in, or are we still moving forward on the timeline that we originally had for the Serafian?
I'm glad you asked that question, because although it wasn't part of the original presentation, we received communication from the Chancellor's office. They feel by Friday we'll have our final approval to go into construction. And then we'll, at that point, be looking at bidding out the demolition and put the financing together. Those funds are flowing fairly well because they're coming from the state bond, and the state has already sold those bonds. So we'll be able to pull down on those in a timely manner.
Great, good news. And then I just want to make a comment. You know, I guess there's a little silver lining for me, at least, in this COVID is, you know, I finally was able to attend a budget meeting because it was online and I could just zoom in and hear you all. And I just really wanted to give accolades to Dr. Bush and to the trustees who sit on that committee. And several of my community members also dialed in, and they just also made those same comments about how impressed they were, how patient and calm you are, Dr. Bush, whenever there are questions that come up, and you just, you know, really just answer it without any, you know, any other, I guess, emotions about it. It's just the facts, and the trustees, you know, chaired by Trustee Martin, who we have had on this budget and audit since we've had a budget and audit committee, and has always done such a great job. But Trustee Silver and Brown also just had great questions, and they were questions I would have asked. So I just want to appreciate my fellow trustees for that, and for Dr. Bush. I did want to ask though, although I got notice of the meeting, there were no documents. So normally would those documents be made available to others to review ahead of time so we could make comments or not?
Yes, and we can do a better job of that. But being able to forward them to the general public.
Or just even through board docs, would we be able to have a board subcommittee agendized for the board docs?
I would need to work
on that.
Oh, okay.
I think we're working on trying to put the board committees onto board docs to avoid these kinds of issues.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Trustee Waugh. I have a question, but before I ask my question, are there any other questions from any of the trustees? Okay, thank you. Dr. Bush, early in the presentation, you mentioned something about pension contributions, and I wanted to go back to that if you could, and on the share screen, or if not, we can just go over it orally. But I believe I understand the amount of contribution percentage that we're going to be making to the STRS and PERS systems is reduced. That's a question. And if that is what's happening, that will save us some budgetary money this year. But these systems, these plans are underfunded already, and we had these really aggressive contributions to try to reduce the amount of that underfunding. So if we walk back from that and don't do the same high level of contribution, are we just getting deeper in that hole of the unfunded pension liability? And then just my final question is, if that is what's happening, what is the differential? What were we supposed to fund as a percentage, and what's the changed amount?
Very good questions. And let me take those in pieces. Our pensions are a percentage of our salaries. So of our PERS eligible times a rate, our STRS eligible salaries times a rate. So PERS for next year, 21, will go from 22.67 to 20.7. For 22, we'll go from 24.6 to 22.84, roughly 2 percentage points. STRS will go from 18.4 to 16.15. Next year and the year after will be 17.9 down to 16.02. So our rates are being subsidized by the state government. It's important to note that the employee pays a portion, the employer pays the lion's share, and then the state pays a portion. And the state is going to, for 2 years, pay 2 percentage points. And if you recall, last budget year, the governor was buying down that liability, that unfunded liability. This budget year, he elected, instead of using those funds to buy down the unfunded liability, to subsidize districts' rate to help the districts out. So overall, it should not increase the unfunded liability. It's just not lowering it as planned.
Got it. So said differently, our contribution rate is going down for the next 2 fiscal years by roughly 2% for PERS and roughly 2% for STRS, but it's still being funded, that differential, but not by PCC, but rather by the state.
Correct.
Understood. Okay.
And not by the employee either. There was a year the employee picked up more.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of my question. Trustees, do we have any more questions or comments before I call for a vote? I don't think we've had a motion and a second yet on this, have we?
Move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, and I'm seeing no further discussion. I'm going to call for a vote. We'll go to a roll call vote. Ms. Galukian, please.
Thank you. Student trustee Ramirez,
Aye.
trustee Chen-Lao,
Aye.
trustee Osterling,
Aye.
trustee Brown,
Aye.
trustee Silver,
Aye.
trustee Wah,
Aye.
trustee Martin,
Aye.
trustee Fellow.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. And we are on to the last action item on the agenda. This is agenda item 5, and this is Superintendent President's Contract. And Dr. Androgianis, if you don't mind just explaining what we're voting on here.
Yes, when you hired me and wrote my contract back in 2018 to start in 2019, what the contract says is that my contract was to go through January of 2019 through June 30th, 2022. But in the contract, it states that every year I have a satisfactory evaluation with the board an additional year will get added to my contract. That's also known as a rolling contract. So at your last board meeting, you gave me a satisfactory evaluation. And so this is just amending my original contract to officially state that I am getting that additional year.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And yes, the evaluation was satisfactory and then some. So you met that requirement. Any other questions or comments by the trustees? And before I call for the roll call vote, have we had a motion yet?
No.
All right, need a motion here.
This is an, oh,
Go ahead.
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and before I call for the roll call vote, procedural question. Since this is the superintendent's contract, does our student trustee vote on this matter or not?
No, he does not. It's personnel in nature.
Okay, so Ms. Galukian, if you could do a roll call vote excluding the student trustee.
Trustee Chen-Lao,
Aye.
Trustee Osterling,
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Aye.
Trustee Silver,
Aye.
Trustee Wah,
Aye.
Trustee Martin,
Aye.
and Trustee Fellow,
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. And that concludes our action items for tonight. And we're going to move on to agenda item J, which is information item. And that's J1 is our superintendent president's report. Dr. Androgianis, take it away, please.
Well, thank you. I'm actually going to ask for some help with part of my report, partially in response to some questions from the trustees. Specifically, if Dr. Cynthia Olivo could give us an update on international students.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Androgianis, for asking me to speak about our international students. I'd like to thank Trustee Chen Lao for attending one of our town halls that we hosted for our international students. We had over 100 international students tune in. We're very relieved that the federal government has decided to back off of their plan to force all international students to take some in-person classes on ground. And we are thrilled to have communicated that already to our international students. So thank you very much for that.
Could I ask a question on that report?
Yes.
Thank you, Cynthia. I heard that in conjunction with this action passing, though, that they said that the amount of student visas was expected to be down fairly dramatically. And I wondered how that might, regardless of them backing off on this order. And my question is, what do we know about our fall enrollment for international students? What's our current projection on that?
Great question. We have around 450 continuing international students enrolled at PCC, and we have around 60 who are new international students so far.
Okay. And do you typically at this early stage have a good handle on your international enrollment, or does more come in closer to the start date?
You're muted.
You're muted.
We typically have around 1,000 students enrolled, so that is down dramatically. But you know, that is anticipated due to the global pandemic.
Okay, so you think that might be the final number? That's your best guess?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again. And Dr. Androgianis, carry on, please.
Well, actually, now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Terry Juni to give us some comments about enrollment.
Good evening, everyone. And so a couple of things. fall 20 is a little bit unusual for Pasadena City College because we are primarily online. And that probably is having a little bit of impact on our enrollments. Basically, as of this week, we are a little bit behind where we were in fall 2019. In regard to enrollments, we're at about 88% of where we were in fall 2019. And so currently we have 38,881 enrollments, and that's from 12,050 students. Last year at this same time, we had 14,000 students, and so our head count's a little bit low. So right now it's a little soft. There's a total of 1,285 of our sections that have less than 30% enrollment right now, but not panicking yet, because this week on Tuesday was basically when the door opened to all continuing students. So this is when we'll see the largest number of enrollments. And if you look back at fall 19, during this week, which actually happened a week earlier because we converted to online, the registration was delayed by a week. But if you look at the previous week, there was an increase of 34% during this week in July last year, and an increase of 20% in the second week of that. And so we're hoping that that trend follows. We're not just expecting it to. We will be working on marketing and outreach. And then one partnership that we have with student services is that we work with counseling, looking at student ed plans, and we actually nudge students, looking at the classes that they need to complete, and basically nudge them to let them know that there are seats available in those classes. And so with those sorts of efforts from counseling, I'm kind of confident, not totally confident, that our enrollments will go up. And the main reason why I'm not really confident is because, as I said earlier, we're primarily online and we haven't done that before. And probably more important is what Cynthia said in regard to our international enrollments, that a lot of students are hesitating and changing their plans and maybe not going to college because of the current pandemic. And so I won't be surprised if that has a little bit of an impact on our enrollments in the fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Juni. Superintendent Androgenis, carry on.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Juni and Dr. Olivo. You know, we're firing on all cylinders, but these are uncharted waters. So we'll just stay semper gumby on that one. So our Summer Jam is coming up. That's our program that eases the transition from high school to college for thousands of our incoming students. It's going to be all remote this year. And Talene Seropian came to an executive committee meeting a couple of weeks ago and walked us through the jam orientation and all of that. It is beyond amazing. They didn't just do like little short films. They had like pictures of advisors, pictures of people who are doing things. And then they had 2 students turn it into graphic art. And it is just eye-popping. It is amazing. And I think we are going to see some really great feedback from it because it's going to appeal to our students. And it just has so much to it that if a high school student comes here to start in the fall and they go through JAM, they're going to be so well prepared. And not only are they going to be prepared, but they're also going to really know who to reach out to if they have questions. And one of the activities is a virtual like panic room that they have to get out of, escape room. It's really cool. It is so cool. Anyway, some highlights for our faculty. I'm going to say some of these names incorrectly. I apologize. Laia Hernandez is a faculty member in TV and radio. She earned a Daytime Emmy Award for Best Sound Mixing. She's the first African-American female editor to work on The Price is Right. Andrew Doe, adjunct faculty in restorative dentistry. This goes back to Trustee Fellow's comments. He earned his master technician pin from the National Dental Laboratory Association. There are only 5 candidates to have this title in the entire country. Valerie Udozier, I may have said that incorrectly. She's a faculty member in nursing. She published an article called Dealing with Health Disparities in Nursing School in the Academic Senate of the California Community College's Rostrum magazine. She's also producing a documentary about the racial disparities experienced by Black women during childbirth. Pasadena City College's math department will be featured in a report by the Dana Center at the University of Texas at Austin as an example of best practices in boosting math success. Dean Carrie Starbird and faculty member Dr. Linda Hensman will be interviewed about co-requisite instruction and our math pathways. We have started, all of our PCC managers are going to have chosen from 5 really important books this summer that deal with topics of race, bias, diversity, and structural racism. And we are ordering all of those books, and managers are going to be reading them, and we are going to start the under his issue. And the call to our work with you'll be really pleased to see where. And then lastly, a couple of weeks ago, I was elected chair of the 3C2A. That's the California Community College Athletic Association Board. And this is a very interesting time to be elected as that board chair. And last week, the board voted to push all fall athletics to the spring 2021. It was a very difficult process. The conversation about it involved what is best for our student athletes and how do we keep them safe and all kinds of things. So we will have pushed athletics to spring 2021. We have a COVID working group who all of that should happen in spring of. So we have COVID. That doesn't mean the flu season isn't going to happen. And so it's a very interesting time. We are doing everything we can to support our athletes, and we have a very detailed schedule of how we'll offer both fall and spring sports in spring 21 if we're able to. So I'll keep you posted on that as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Androgenis. Just a technical question. I had difficulty hearing parts of your report. Did other trustees as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me suggest the following, Erica, if you'd like. Why don't we do it this way? If you could go back after the fact, and if you want to reread that into the record after the fact, since it's an information item. Tony, does that work procedurally?
Yes.
All right. That's your choice, Erica.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much. And let's move on to our agenda item K, which is announcements by shared governance representatives and board of trustees. And as usual, we'll start with shared governance. And before I get started, I know we have had some elections and turnover. So hopefully I get these names and introductions identified for each group correctly. And if I don't, please step in and correct me. So our first report is going to be from our Associated Students President, and that's Mackenzie Rivera, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, Mackenzie, thank you. Take it away.
As of right now, our executive board has been going through their training for the summer. Really looking forward to working with this group. Right now, we do have 2 vacancies for the positions of Vice President of Public Relations and for Business Affairs. We currently have our applications out and are looking forward to adding more members to our little group. That's my report.
Okay, thank you, Mackenzie. Next, I'm going to go to our classified, and I believe we have a new representative here, and I believe it's Denise Mejia, and if I'm correct, she also goes by the handle of DJ. DJ, are you out there, and are you our new classified representative?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, and welcome. We're ready for your report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name again is Denise Jaramillo. I go by DJ. I'm from the EOP&S program. I'm excited to be serving on the 2021 Board of Trustees representative for the Classified Senate. I'm excited to be here and share some of the things that we're working on in the Classified Senate. So last month we hosted a virtual personal development opportunity using the campus's Vision Resource Center module. We had about 100 participants. We want to thank the PD subcommittee for this opportunity, also Jason Robinson for his team. Lastly, we have newly elected board, and each member is busy learning their roles as prepared to plan a year out. We're looking forward to having classified staff increase representation across the campus, and also as well working with the PD team, identify and make available and more opportunities for professional development. Despite the current situation that we are in, I know our entire Senate is ready to get to work and serve the classified staff community this year. So I'm really looking forward to spending time with you this next year with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, and again, welcome, Denise. We look forward to having you join us each month for these meetings. And I see Tito out there, so I take it we don't have any turnover for management, at least as of this point. Is that correct?
That is correct, Striga. Well, again, our terms are a little different, so I'll be here for another year.
Okay, thank you. Take it away, sir.
Excellent. Well, thanks again. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your continued support of our students and our college. I want to begin by actually thanking our executive team for continuing with Tuk Tuk Thongthraj and Will Sims in their respective positions. And we look forward to collaborating with their efforts that they are leading the semesters ahead. I'd also like to thank, as Dr. Levo and Dr. Enginos were mentioning, to thank Olivia Liu, who's our Director of International Students, for her leadership, which was really tested and highlighted this past week with having to, with the assistance of her team, navigate the guidelines by the federal government in what could have been a disastrous academic year for our international students. Thank you to the other managers and members of the executive team who additionally lent their support to the great work that Olivia leads both in times of crisis and throughout the year. At our Management Association meeting, monthly business meeting last week, the membership of many of the college council standing committees were revisited. Many of them had new managers appointed, which is really a testament to the commitment of the MA board to constantly empowering new voices and leaders to be at various decision-making tables. This same value is also a part of our ongoing work to support the discussion and action planning required of all of us to keep the calls to action shared at our listening forum hosted by UGMA and Black Academia and by the Chancellor's Office alive. The MA appreciates the executive team's decision to pull back the amount of days the managers are physically on campus, though you can rest assured that we will continue to commit the hours, energy, and leadership needed to our PCC family. And lastly, there is no rest for the weary. So in the summer months, as managers are all working hard and preparing for what should be an eventful fall semester. But thank you to Dr. Jonas and Jonas for still encouraging us to find those staycations days where we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Tito. And Academic Senate, Dr. Matt Hennis.
Hello. I have a very brief report today. Our academic senate is, I was going to say offline. They're in recess over the summer. But what I want to do is start off is by offering a late congratulations to the newly elected president of the Association of Black Employees, Gina Lopez, which happens to be the secretary of the academic senate. And Dr. Junie took kind of a little of my thunder here. I was going to give some props to the Curriculum and Instruction Committee. He said most of what I wanted to say, but I just want to put their names in front of you. The co-chairs are Sharon Bober and John Hanley, and they're doing a great job of steering the curricular portion of this college through this entire ordeal. And then finally, the Executive Committee of the Academic Senate has met with some members of the administration to review some grading options for students for this summer. As you may know, we had some kind of special considerations that we took into account in spring, and we altered some of our grading policies there due to, you know, kind of changing the rules of the game midstream. And our grading policies are largely back to normal, but with some kind of relief valves, if you will. Our goal was to find a middle ground to serve our students during this time. That pretty well concludes my report.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, I know, for all of the tremendous amount of work that it's going to take us to convert from to an online format. Thank you to you, the rest of the faculty, and all of our staff that are involved in doing that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah. We're now going to move on to.
I have a question, Jim. Sorry.
Yes, Trustee Chen Lao, you're up.
Hi, Matt. This is like my monthly check-in with you. Right?
Absolutely.
On the last month, you had mentioned that the faculty is getting training, and they're still looking to get some of the equipments, you know, needed to set up for fall's online classes. Where is that now? Do you have a sense of what is the temperature of the faculty now that it's only a couple months away from fall?
Well, I was contacted by the Associate Vice President of Technology, Candace Jones, shortly after the last board meeting, and she indicated to me that students, you asked about faculty, but students are receiving regular emails offering them an opportunity to request equipment. And a similar mechanism has been used to offer equipment to faculty who are in need. I think right now, the faculty who are currently teaching saw it coming for summer, because summer is basically optional for faculty. And if there is a need out there for faculty who aren't teaching now but will be in fall, it's something that I'm currently unaware of. I think that my avenue to find that information would be to go to Candace Jones and ask if the deans are seeing any requests. But my understanding is that as the requests have been made, they've been met by our technology services department. I think we're probably okay. At least we're in better shape than we were on March 13th when this all started. You are muted.
You're muted.
Would you say that your colleagues feel prepared now that fall is gonna come in a month and a half?
I think that we're still in varying degrees of preparation, but I'm personally also taking part in one of the @ONE courses for distance ed, and you know, it's not just, you know, here's how to use Canvas. It's down into pedagogy and course design, with the idea in mind that we're doing this remotely. So you know, the 500 plus faculty who are undergoing, you know, who are in these classes are getting a great deal of information that I think is necessary for us to successfully address our students' needs. There are probably still hotspots here and there, but my email has been really quiet lately. So,
so that's good.
Yeah, I'm taking that as a good sign.
That's good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Matt, follow-up question on the same subject. Yesterday or the day before, there was a um, instruction given at the state level that at the K-12 level, all of the uh, students must have some type of a daily check-in, a daily interaction. And is there any similar requirement at the community college level, or is there any similar approach like that that we will be adopting? And what I'm trying to get at is are we going to be making sure that these courses, have interaction between the students and the faculty via Zoom or other methods?
Yeah, I believe that our the mechanisms by which we track attendance in the college at the college level are, I think they're different from what's in the K through 12. But Dr. Juni can probably speak a little better to this than I can, but what I can tell you is that part of the training that we're undergoing is how to sustain regular, and the catchphrases are, or catchphrase is regular and effective contact with students. And part of those emergency Form Ds that he mentioned were articulating how students will engage with the content, how students will engage with each other, and how students will engage with the faculty. And so it's part of what we're doing when we're building our course designs is ensuring that students have that regular and effective contact. I think that largely the way we're going to be reporting that is by demonstrations that we can show using Canvas, our course management system. So as students are doing their work and they're submitting assignments through Canvas, that's one of the ways that we show that they are attending and participating in our classes.
Okay. Dr. Juni, any further comment that you would like to add to that, sir?
Yes, thank you. If I could add to what Matt said, actually the expectations of our accrediting body, the ACCJC, requires that when a class is online, so it's not a daily check-in like you were mentioning at in the K through 12. The expectation is that there's a weekly check-in where faculty are reaching out and interacting with each individual student at least once a week. And then also the expectation is that faculty are providing means for students to be able to interact with other students at least once a week as well. So that effective weekly contact basically is what the requirement is for online instruction at the community college level. And so a lot of the training that Matt was talking about is basically helping faculty understand the different ways that they can do that effectively and giving them different tools to do it.
Okay, thank you, Terry and Matt. We're going to move on now to Board of Trustees announcements, and we'll start with student trustee David Ramirez. Take it away, sir.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. So firstly, I wanted to say that I am very happy to know that the Trump administration has rescinded its immigration regulations on international students. We have avoided a very unjust displacement of hundreds of thousands of students in the US and around 500 of our own students. Associated Students put out a statement last week where, and I quote, "We support our international students, recognize and appreciate their contributions to our campus community, and are committed to ensuring their success. As student leaders, we want to offer support to the international students, and we will be reaching out to federal officials, urging them to modify this rule," end quote. Luckily, we don't have to do that anymore, but that doesn't mean we ignore the fact that our students are scared, because we have a lot of students who face uncertainty, and we are actively working with various departments to explore possible collaborations on virtual events to better support students. Luckily, or like Mackenzie mentioned earlier, we are also actively looking to fill vacancies on our board for business affairs and publicity. So I don't know how many students watch these 3-hour board meetings, but to any students, please reach out.
I have a question for you, David, similar to my question to Matt. I mean, knowing that PCC students are going to be online, in the fall, and they've had some experience in the summer, how are some of the students feeling about, taking their online courses and then as well as, their relationship now with faculty?
I feel like also before last semester, I'm sure there was a lot of confusion and a lot of uncertainty. I think now during summer, students kind of have known what they're signing up for classes. But I know that a lot of students have reached out to me in terms of difficulty with technology access. So that's something I definitely hope to be working with administration to work on.
Thank you, David. And we're going to go through the trustees now, and we'll do this in the order that you appear on my screen. And I'll start in my upper left, and that would be Trustee Silver.
I was not expecting that. Just quickly, I am so pleased with PCC, pleased and proud with the National Science Foundation grant that we won. I know there's a lot of work that goes behind winning a grant, and kudos to whatever support, whoever brought the idea and all the support that that person got or that team got. And I am looking forward to a really bright future for our students who are going to participate in some groundbreaking science, and they'll have very bright futures. So I'm so delighted.
Thank you, Trustee Silver. Next up on my screen is Trustee Martin.
No report.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Trustee Wah.
Well, I just wanted to reiterate the congratulations that Tio gave to Will Sims. I was remiss in congratulating him on his assignment promotion. And also to Olivia Liu, who was quoted in the Chronicle for Higher Ed for her work in advocating for the international students. I also wanted to let the trustees know that we are moving forward on the diversity, equity, inclusion initiative. So as you know, the chancellor made 7 calls to action. The DEI committee is, the task force is pulling together. There's 6 stakeholder groups represented. The trustees are one of them. So we as trustees are pulling from everyone within our groups. We have 4 work groups that are going to be working on DEI initiatives. And I'm proud to say that 3 of our trustees from PCC are also on there. So thank you, Trustee Ramirez, Osterling, and Silver for raising your hand. Not too late to volunteer if anybody else wants to. And then I wanted to remind everyone that every Thursday we are still continuing to have weekly trustee webinars. The one that's coming up tomorrow is hosted by the African American Caucus on the Black Lives Matter panel discussion, and it's deconstructing racism. We're going to have some really great speakers, Dr. Regina Stenbeck-Stroud and Dr. Ed Bush, as well as FOG member Pam Haynes, Trustee Myra Cruz, and Trustee Meredith Brown. And it's going to be hosted by Lasana Hotep, who is now the director. He was at Skyline, he's director of a new group now, I don't remember which. But anyway, it should be really good. I hope you'll all join us. We have our future webinars are going to focus next on the workforce. And we have taken these comments back from trustees who have asked for some of these webinars. So what is the outlook on the workforce, future of the workforce, and especially in COVID? We're going to be looking at Title IX changes. So that will be given by the General Counsel for the Chancellor's Office, Mark Forestier. The Title IX implementation is coming up in August 16th, I believe. And so there's a lot of things that are coming down the pipe on Title IX, not just on athletics, but also on sexual harassment issues and the changes that came out from the federal government, from Secretary DeVos. Number of lawsuits have been filed, and so we don't know where it's going to go. It's still kind of up in the air. But anyway, that should be interesting. And then we'll also do one on dual enrollment, which will be hosted by Vice Chancellor Marty Alvarado. So anyway, hope you guys will join us for our Thursday webinars tomorrow. Tomorrow should be really good. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Watt. Next up on my TV screen is Trustee Fellow.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say I didn't know Warren Weber died until John brought it up tonight, and I'm sorry about that. He was a very kind man, especially, and he was very kind to me, and I hate to see that. And I'm sure we'll adjourn in his honor tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, we will, in fact. Thank you, Trustee Fellow. Trustee Brown.
Yeah, so I really don't have anything in particular to report, but I must echo what Trustee Wall had to some of what she's saying. I have really enjoyed tuning in most Thursday and the webinars, and they have been very extremely helpful. So I must give her kudos to that, and I'm looking forward to continue hearing all of what they have to say. They're good speakers, and but that's really all I have to say, Trustee Wall.
Thank
No,
you, Trustee Brown,
no,
and it's not
no,
too
I
late to
will not
volunteer.
check it out. No, I will not be volunteering. But no, they are very good. I must say, very
Thank you,
good.
Trustee Brown.
Thank you, Berlinda, and Trustee Chen Lao.
Hi. So I happened to had the opportunity to attend the town hall for the international students. And there were over 130 students that participated that afternoon. And they were just certainly sharing, some of the challenges and for themselves and their families. And I'm so glad to hear that the federal government has rescinded its policy. At the same time, applaud PCC's International Student Center, led by Olivia Liu, to really respond rapidly to the changes and to have clarity in guiding the students on what they can do and how they can proceed, and especially for students that may not be as familiar with the political landscape or navigating the landscape here in the United States. I also would like to just mention that kudos to all the faculty and staff who are working remotely from home. I certainly understand that, being a working parent, that without a definitive plan for K to 12 to go back to school or to do distance learning, I understand that there's a lot of strain on working families, having to juggle all of that. So to the faculty and staff who are experiencing that, I appreciate what you're doing for PCC. And finally, to Erica, I know that she has brought many of the employees to the Center for Racial Equity and to get some courses and training. And I mentioned to her that I would love to be part of that as well. And I look forward to attending those sessions. So thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. And I don't have much to report tonight, other than, again, congratulations to all of the promotions that were previously announced. And I forgot at the time to mention Will Sims and that well-deserved promotion. And also wanted to really, truly thank all of our faculty, staff, executive team, everybody that's doing their best to make PCC still provide student success and student equity in these very unprecedented and difficult and challenging times. We couldn't maintain that level of quality without each and everybody in the entire institution. So thank you. Congratulations to Erica, Dr. Androgenis, on being promoted to run the, I can't remember the darn acronym, but it's the athletic organization for the
it's the 3C2A.
That's right,
3C2A.
3C2A.
Thank you, the 3C2A. And Erica, really, I appreciate having your clear-headed leadership in a very difficult position at a very difficult time, in the ability to make the tough decisions that need to be made there. So we're glad to have you in that position at this particular time.
Well, thank you. I have to say, I feel like I'm in good company because of the announcement today about the Rose Parade, and Bob Miller, who has worked tirelessly to get to this point. And so I feel like we are all in this together and trying to figure out what is best for everyone. So,
Yeah,
you know,
we're doing what's best, but it's still disappointing. And I can imagine his disappointment at his year. The one saving grace for him is it will certainly go down in history as being unique. He'll be mentioned for many years to come.
yes, he will.
Yeah.
So, but thank you.
And then just lastly, to conclude on a personal note, it is nice to see everybody once a month on Zoom meetings, and Zoom's better than nothing, but I really truly look forward to the day where we can all safely gather again and get to see my fellow trustees, our great administrators, the student representatives, our shared governance representatives actually in person. And I don't know when that day will come, but I miss you all, and at least we get to see each other this way. And that concludes my remarks. And we're going to move on to agenda item number 2, which is proposed future business meeting dates. Erica, do we have any requested changes, or the calendar stands? Anything that needs to be reported?
No, the calendar stands as far as I know, and please note that both the summer retreat as well as the winter retreat have been calendared there, so make a note of that. And also, in case anybody was wondering, our meeting in November is going to be the second Tuesday, not only because Veterans Day falls on November 11th, which is a Wednesday, but also because normally we would be, many of us would be off to the Community College League for California conference, which is why we couldn't have it that third Wednesday. That is going to be a virtual conference, and we don't actually know what the schedule for the conference is. So we're still going to adhere to moving the board meeting to November 10th. But that's basically why we had to do that, in case anyone was wondering.
Okay. Thank you. So that's it for agenda item 2, proposed future board meeting dates. Item number 3 is proposed future agenda items. Does anybody have any requests for proposed future agenda items?
I do.
Trustee Waugh, you're up.
Yeah, I really appreciated being able to listen to the budget discussion from the budget committee and then hearing it again tonight. You know, it just, and I've mentioned this several times, I think that, you know, the deferrals, and I'm happy to see that our college took a very conservative approach on our budget. I think that's the responsible thing for us to do. Nevertheless, I think that we know that the deferrals are just a deferral of cuts that we know are going to come. And I know that Dr. Androgenis, you're working really hard with your cabinet on various scenarios of what might happen when we have to pull the trigger on other cuts as we face them in the future. But I think it's also important for us to have this discussion with the board so that we can go through some scenarios and so that we understand what the issues are that you're facing, and that we might also give some input and priorities ahead of time. So I really urge us to find a date to bring that discussion so that we can come together and strategize.
Absolutely. And what I will tell you is that we're really, you know, today's July 15th. As Dr. Bush said, we'll know in a couple of weeks what the reality is. Once we have the reality, and once we have a better sense of what those policy discussions are going to be around the permanent budget, it'll be easier for us to come forward with and have a discussion. You know, I think right now, what we're trying to do is figure out, is there a way for us to keep a fairly conservative budget and adhere to the partial guidelines from the governor and which really implored community colleges not to lay off classified people. They specified, you know, custodians. That's what applies to us as a community college. I feel like we don't have enough data yet. And then the third part of that is that we're still watching what's happening with the disease trajectory. It is entirely possible that within the next 3 weeks, we're going to figure out that we have to rethink how we're doing fall. That 10% we have face-to-face, maybe we can't do it. We want to do it. You know, we want to figure this out, but that will definitely come into play when we're talking about potential budget cuts. So I absolutely hear you. The board will have an opportunity to weigh in. We just don't have enough information. And you'd have a lot of conversation without enough information. But
Yeah,
yes,
so I
you will have the
do
opportunity.
really appreciate that. Just wanted to reiterate, you know, the board is
Yeah.
your partner in this, and we have your
Yes.
back. So yeah, good for us to just strategize together. So thank you very much for doing
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Erica, would it be premature to agendize that for our board retreat?
My hunch is that yes, we can put that on the board retreat.
Okay.
If we don't have a meeting before then, and if I were a betting woman, which I am, I love Vegas, my hunches will wind up having either a conversation at our August board meeting or a special board meeting before that. Because here we are 15 days into our new fiscal year, we're going to have to figure out what we're doing. And so we will, as soon as we have any idea what the best option is, I will share that with the board. But definitely it can be on our retreat. Absolutely.
Okay, why don't we add that to the retreat agenda? Thank you. We now come to the most popular time of the meeting, and that's the adjournment. And we're going to adjourn this meeting tonight in recognition, first of all, of Levon Spires. I hope I said that correctly. The program director for the radiology department, who passed. Former trustee Warren Weber, previously recognized by trustee John Martin, and trustee at Area 5 for 28 years. And we're also going to adjourn once again for the victims of racial hatred and police violence. And we hope that the national outcry for justice will lead to substantive change. And lastly, once again, we're going to adjourn in sad recognition of the COVID-19 victims, the growing list, and their families. And let's hope that we can find a vaccine and a cure for that terrible pandemic that refuses to let go. And without any further ado, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.